Hey, how are we doing? It is live show time. I've got some topics today, some issues, and something I found along with errors in eBay and the new label printing that we have, the bulk printing. So we're going to talk about that. I got some haul items in a bag that I bought literally this morning. Update on the reel-to-reels I'll give you in just a little bit here, and the records too from the last haul video. I think it says score on the thumbnail. So everything's going awesome. So we'll talk about that. The wife probably won't be on today. She's been feeling pretty sick. We've had a really busy day. Pretty much every day this week's been like that. I've got a lot of stuff going in. I am currently waiting on an answer from I guess it's the legal department or whatever, their insurance or claim department for a place where I hawk all my gold and stuff at. I shouldn't say hawk, but so when all hopes will have that all okayed, because it sounds like they're going to do it. So I've literally been saving up, and I'm going to hopefully get to show you it. If it's not this place, I'll go to my second choice, which is another company here locally that I've used before. So just to get that out of the way, Christmas videos are on my chart for real quickly coming up soon. Halloween videos are as well too. So you're going to get some holiday videos coming out. I get asked about those constantly. Those are key areas, not only that I personally, let's make sure everybody can hear me today. Sorry to hop around here. Hang on just a second here. I would imagine it looks like everybody can. I will cover some names and things like that in just a few minutes here, and we'll go from there. But so thing-wise, I do a lot of holiday for my own businesses, my artwork, the stuff we do, the toys and all that kind of stuff too. So anyway, that's what I do with that. I've got some videos related to that. So let's see here. Geez, I had a whole bunch of notes here and I still have them. I'm going to touch on cross-listing as well. I get asked that question now since people have seen some of the videos where I talk about what our plans are. Our plans are to broadcast our stuff everywhere, anywhere we can get it through a third-party app, and right now it's Sellbrite. There are other ones, and I know there's people that talk about doing other forms of ways, and I know there's other forms and ways to do it, but for mass quantity, you really need a third-party app. I'll talk about that a little bit here as well, too. It's a fast, easy, and efficient way. I'll give you the do's, the don'ts, and the issues that I've found after doing it now for several months with a third-party app. It's frustrating. It takes a lot of work. It's going to have a ton of growing pains. We've learned a lot just in the last few months on doing this, and I've had a couple people reach out to me and ask if I can give them some advice on it. I'm still not to a point where I feel comfortable on doing that. So no disrespect to anybody who's reached out. There's several that actually have. So I'm not really an aficionado yet. We're fine, everything's great listing and all the other aspects of it, but you've got to be able to sync stuff, and there's just a little more to it, and it all depends on what categories you have, because each one could be different because of the little subset options that you have in the categories. We're going to talk a little technical, and then I'm going to talk about sourcing, as I said, so we got a little bit for everybody here. I don't want to just narrow it in. Somebody made some comments and about, and no offense, I love to have comments, good, bad, or indifferent. As long as they're not nasty, those just get deleted right away. But I try to give a lot of rounded information based on experience and as much factual content. I don't like to make fantasy statements or anything like that. So it's just not worth my time or my energy or my reputation or anything else like that. So again, I've got like 20 things on the list. I probably will cover just a few of them because I think the label issue is something that maybe everybody who's watching can help out by making a comment, whether it's happened to them. Again, we'll go into that when we get some more folks into the chat now. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I've got a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes here. The box guy is a go now, so I've got an okay to go into a box place. I've got a GoPro 7 Black coming in. It should have been here today, but it's a day delayed, so we'll be able to do some ones on site, some interviews with some other folks. Hopefully I'll get you some contact information for hooking up with some of the people that I'll be talking with. And it's not a marketing thing. I don't get anything from doing any of that kind of stuff. It's not something like that. If they're going to be nice enough to allow me to come in there and answer some questions and show like end cuts and things like that, which if you don't know what end cuts are in bubble wrap, It's the bomb. I get like sometimes 600 or more, even up to 1,000 feet of bubble wrap, anywhere from 12 to say 16 inches, sometimes a little more than that, for like 15 or 20 bucks. It's this huge thing. It fills up the back of my van. I have to take a seat out to bring usually one of these monster rolls out back to the house. So, for that kind of money, you just can't go wrong. I mean, and I've known about end cuts for a long time, and I've turned on some people, and I've talked about them on here, but it'd be interesting to show you what I'm talking about and where they come from and why they get rid of them. It's not a set cut anytime, so it's kind of hard for them to use it. So that's what the gist of it is. So we'll cover some of that. Again, as I said, I've got the haul stuff here. I am going to be doing a few things with a couple other channels, and not to broadcast or do anything like that. It's not a marketing ploy. I get asked all the time, I don't have this option, I don't have that option, I can't find what you sell. There's so many things you can sell. I mean, we make a bunch now of our own product literally here, or I'll send stuff off to printers or companies now. So it's not just about finding something or even constant sourcing. You can make your own stuff, and it doesn't always have to be sold on eBay. There's obviously Etsy. There's just so many avenues to do stuff. And homemade on Amazon as well is a very good option these days. They have promoted it a lot, and they promote those when you have a seller account, especially if it's tied into your account. I may touch on some more of the Amazon. We do business to business on Amazon. It's a separate application, like dealing with company to company sales, basically, where it's not available to the general public, where you can do some dealings in the service there on Amazon. So if anybody knows about that, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, you can look up business to business. B2B literally is what the designation is. And if you're in my Patreon, you've probably seen it on my Amazon page when I've showed it. So it's just another page basically in my seller account. We've got a couple extra pages that other people may not have, just because we've signed up for some other services through them. So anyway, we'll touch on some names. Let me just make sure there wasn't anything. Actually, we have quite a few people on. Why don't I just get the actual topics out of the way real quick here. Now, most of you know when you do the actual mass shipping on eBay with the label page, you can set it up however you want. When we print labels, what I do is I actually take the name of the person and use that. I don't worry about the email address or anything like that. I write their name on the package. So once it's wrapped up, every single item gets the name of the person, the full name, exactly what it says on your page that you have for printing from. And from here, you change, the prices, just so we all know we're talking about the same page. You change all the prices or the weights or whatever you're doing, that would be done on that page. You could add extra services. Now, with the new, and I don't remember what they call the new page. I don't have it opened here, but it's now forced everybody to go over to this. You can, I think, still hit the classic, but it automatically zooms in on the new one, which is okay with me if it works fine. What I found now after doing this, and we've written down the names of the actual buyer on every single package now for at least a year. The last 2 days now, it's actually when I've written down the name, and then I go to print the labels up. In Gang, we group print them, so sometimes 30 or 40 or roll off, whatever the case may be. And it'll have a different name on the label. So, and I've looked into this now. If anybody else has had that, where you had to go back and figure out the name if you're writing names on the envelopes, please leave a comment down in the comment section down below. I would like to get a consensus on this. I called eBay on it, they say it's not an issue, blah, blah, blah. The typical response that I get on some of these technical things. They supposedly logged it, but, it happened again at the second time around. It cost me another 10 or 15 minutes of time because I had to go through and, figure out which one it would possibly be, and I didn't want to be incorrect. And we actually opened up a couple packages just to make sure. I did even email a couple of the folks that this happened to and just ask them about the other name on the account. What it looks like is happening is that there's several names. Now, if you've done a lot of business on eBay and you know PayPal, we do PayPal, and I've known PayPal for decades now. You can set up multiple names and addresses on your PayPal account. So, and we've got several. I've got some set up where I can send stuff to specific businesses with specific addresses to mail items to. We buy stuff for family members and things like that sometimes. So I've got routine numbers and addresses in PayPal. And what it looks like is it's accounts that had that. So the person actually ordered it. He addressed it to his specific PayPal address, and the payment was sent. Well, it looks like what happens is when you actually see that main page with all of the stuff you sold on eBay for, where you're going to go and print them, it'll show the actual original name on the PayPal account and not the one that was switched. But when you go to print it, it actually shows the one that was switched to. So there's two different ones for the exact same package. So the names are totally different. I have in the past, we thought about writing the whole address, but I mean, that's just pointless when you have, a long address to write. And then I thought about the city, and we've run into where it's been a very common name, and in the same day we've sold, or sent out 70 or some odd packages, and almost the exact same name showed up in the same basic city area. So, I usually just use the name, and if there's a question, we'll write a little note, but it shouldn't be working that way. It's a glitch is what it looks like, pulling from another server from what it looks like to me. If anybody else, again, if you've had that issue, please make a comment down below. Again, this is serious enough to me because it's a time waster. 2 days in a row, 30 plus minutes. It would be a nuisance if it keeps happening every day. Again, if you don't sell a lot, you may not see the difference. There may only be a couple packages going out, and there might be very obvious, but we might send out 50 3-ounce first-class packages in one day, and sometimes over the weekend there's, maybe 120 of them or something. So it's very easy. They all look the same. They're all the same size, the same weight. It's just a little bit annoying when that happens, and you don't want to mix up a package. So again, if anybody else has had where the names have been different from your page of ones to print versus what has printed, that would be very interesting to know, because I can at least take that and make a call back to eBay and hopefully address the issue, because again, it's very annoying. And I know those of you who've used the system know that it doesn't allow you to print anything out of the global shipping program. You got to go and print them separately sometimes. Sometimes it forces you to print overseas ones separately. So again, I know they're working on the issues. I wouldn't have rolled out the process until it was working if it was me. I would hate to have something, not functioning correctly and then push it out like eBay did. But, that's what they did. I'm not going to... Every company has their glitches, their issues. It was just something that they could have avoided prior to it starting full-fledged and rolling it out. Kind of like the other issues, like those folks who didn't have the option to make offers to watchers. And I've heard just the other day that there's still folks who don't have that option. As far as eBay has been reporting, it's been a done deal. Really, that's what they said, but I don't know if that's true. Anyway, let me hop back over here for just a second here. Again, that's the issue with that. If anybody's seen that or had any issues with it, let me know. Another one, I brought up an issue on people getting blocked and suspended on eBay for selling items like old locks and things like that. Now, I understand from what I've seen, and I looked into this a lot more, there's government is pushing down on a lot of these kind of things, and now eBay and other sites have had issues, and I've apparently got letters or something, maybe even from what it sounded like. I can't confirm that because I'm hearing some of this second and third hand, so they're really cracking down on this. I know they've been sending out stuff for like obsolete police badges, which I've sold many in the past. I know you're technically supposed to have a letter from the establishment or from a police department that states that it's okay to sell if you sell obsolete police badges. Most people don't do it because it's not the easiest thing to try and figure out who's going to write that slip in the whole works for you. So, but there's locks, there's keys that could be banned, badges that could be banned, certain types of uniforms that could be banned. One thing I see people selling is somebody actually, I saw it in the questions, was they had a vintage pack of cigarettes. Yes, vintage packs of cigarettes can be worth money. I would never ever risk selling them in my life because it's a tobacco item. Even if it's 100 years old, it still is tobacco. If they did a test on it in a court of law, it would show up as tobacco and then you would lose. So, that's just the take on that. I wouldn't risk that. I wouldn't sell. And I had a conversation on bone and how to tell and things like that. If you have any doubt or any inclination that something might be ivory, you should not list it in any way, shape, or form. Tortoiseshell is another thing. You don't list any tortoiseshell items at all. I run into them occasionally. Usually they're Victorian or earlier. Buttons, pins. I've had some ladies' hair pieces, like a tortoiseshell tiara, real ones, not like the modern fake faux tortoiseshell that you see. you know, people don't always know what it is, and we do run into a few pieces here and there. Usually those are just donated pieces because I don't really want to mess with them. If the museum here will take them, I will just donate them or figure out where to send them for free or something along that line. I don't mess with anything like that at all. I do sell bovine pretty much religiously on the bovine, and mostly what we sell, and I do sell quite a bit of it, are tribal style, big chunky bone and brass and like ebony wood necklaces. If you type in tribal necklace, you'll know what I'm talking about. I usually make a lot of money. They're usually big, gaudy. They've got hand-carved bone beads, bovine, of course. Sometimes there's horn in there, which is perfectly legal to sell as well. If you list anything that says bone on eBay, and I don't care what it is, if it's a vintage piece or what, you have to say what type of bone. I usually just pop in bovine if I'm sure on what it is. Most pieces, like some of the dominoes you will find, are bovine. The typical dominoes, other than the ones, and I have seen some ivory ones, are made of bone on one side, which would be bovine, and usually it's dyed. And then the reverse side is really polished ebony wood, usually. Those are usually the earlier dominoes that are like pin set, which are called spinners as well, and they date back to like the 1850s. I've had them, I've showed them in my videos, I've sold 3 or 4 sets of them. It's not a super scarce or rare item in my book, but you know, you just don't find them all the time unless you really dig. A lot of people miss them. They don't realize what it is. But again, there's laws everywhere about selling ivory. It has to be so old. You have to have like a letter. Some states don't allow it no matter what. So just take that into consideration when you're finding these items out there. And you might run into it, you know, not intentionally. You might buy a box lot and find something in there like that. Another thing that you can get dinged on for sure are sealskin. Anything sealskin, seal fur coats. Some of the beaver fur and stuff like that can be an issue as well. You're pretty safe on beaver hats, because especially if they're like a name brand or something like that. Some of the derbies and stuff like that, which we had, and I've showed some before. Just because you can fully fledged date them, and the company that made them usually will have a permit, so there's nothing, you know, legally wise about it. We listed a seal fur coat once before, had no clue. This is a decade ago or so. It was from the 30s or so. It was really bomb, you know. It was like a riding jacket, had that weird feel to it, and then it was like soft seal fur. I didn't realize it was even seal at the time. It was kind of hard to say. I was almost anticipating it was a horse, because, you know, some of the biker jackets you run into are horsehide. If you didn't know that, I've got a few. They're usually pricier than any other jacket. And sometimes, like with the horse hair blankets, sometimes it's actually literally horsehair weaved in there. And it feels the same if you've ever felt a horsehide blanket or something along that line. I know I love horses, so I wouldn't ever want, you know, something new. These are usually vintage pieces. Like the first one I ever found, I didn't even know it was a, you know, horse blanket made out of horse fur, or horse hair, I guess. Maybe they shave them at the time. I don't know the process, and I'm not condoning or you know, saying anything bad or negative about the industry or whatever the case may be. It's just something you run into. If you're a reseller, you got to sell what you find and take chances and try different items and new things, and that really does help in my book. But anyway, that's the topic there. Let's go up to the feed here. Again, I'll come back to what we've sold on that little $5 purchase from the haul video and a couple other things here in just a few minutes. Again, it's been swamped busy here. Rosanna, how are you doing? Hey, Carl. Carl is here. Emily, welcome. Well, yep. If you haven't hit the thumbs up, hit the thumbs up. We've got 111 people in now and only 30 thumbs up. I see the downs. I usually get one before. It's a shame that they're haters for no reason. I don't go to other people's channels and dog on them, but, you know, that's what they want to do. Let's see here. Greetings. Hey, Black Crystal Dice. How are you doing? Hoptman, how goes the war? Charles, how are you doing? Laura, welcome. Flippin' Ozarks. I am assuming you are from the Ozarks. I have been that way myself. Jason Blake, welcome. Mary, welcome. Michelle with 1L, again, welcome. Barbara O'Shan Deals, AdTex LLC, welcome. Aaron Baker. My feed just disappeared, so hang on just a second here. Yeah, I've had other people say that their feed bounces up and disappears too. So, Pick with Joy, welcome. Treasure Experts, Nobleness D, welcome. Hopefully, Nobleness D, you got an answer on your marbles from somebody. I am not a big marble person. I can tell the old ones and the very expensive ones, but some of the mid 50s ones, you know, a lot of them are semi-common, and I don't mess with a lot of marbles these days. Weight-wise, I guess you could say, and yeah, you really got to wrap almost each one separately to be safe sometimes. Just what I've found. Mongoloid, yep, you can head out and watch it as you wish. We have, actually, I turned on the DVR feature, so you can actually go back and then while it's live. I didn't even realize that was turned off. Somebody asked on that, so it is on for that person that asked on that. My Great Finds, how are you doing? Yeah, this background I use occasionally. I had some comments about mixing it up. I've got a whole bunch of new ones here. Backgrounds, you can't just use anything. You got to make sure it's you're not breaking someone's copyright or anything like that, or you might even have to buy some. So, you know, there's packet deals and things like that too. So if you're going to have a background, you know, you got to just be safe. For me, sometimes it's just easier to just turn on the background and not worry about it. I've got a lot of clutter in here today, so just FYI. It's been a really monstrous week. Yesterday, I literally forgot what day of the week it was. You know, they kind of run into each other at some point when you're just rolling, you know, and the kids aren't in school. I don't go anywhere specific on any scheduled day. Just because, you know, we do 6 days a week with mailing, and usually I've got employees here 5.5 days a week, and then Sunday is the day that I usually don't worry. And then I end up doing stuff on Sunday anyway, but Sunday I've turned into an art day usually these days, so I can at least get 4 days of artwork in on Sundays. So you forget that kind of stuff when you don't go to a regular job, and you know, that's really weird to say. Never would have realized and thought about not remembering what day of the week it was, but you know, in all honesty, it happens occasionally. You know, or you wake up in the middle of the night and you think you're late for work and an alarm clock didn't go off. I had that happen the other day. It was a real long week, as I said. This is the best month I've ever had on eBay, and I said that about last month. This month is beating last month, so that's why I can say that. It depends on what you sell. So again, I'm not going to beat up anybody, and we sold clothing. We sold the typical usual items that everybody else sells. There's nothing wrong with selling anything. It's just harder in some categories to sell. And I'm going to say this one more time, and I'll go back to the feed. I didn't plan on selling what we sell at all. I didn't plan on being a full-time eBay seller at all. We've sold on the side for, you know, decades since eBay was eBay. But the whole aspect of being full-time eBay sellers just happened. You know, it just happened. So it wasn't a plan, and I didn't plan on selling paper and, you know, wholesale stuff. Again, that's just where our path has taken us. Luckily, you know, you find your way, I guess. You know, we wandered the eBay world for a while until we found our place, or it found us, I guess I should say. You source what you can find, and that's what you're going to be stuck with for a while. And you know, eventually you'll be able to break that habit, and you'll be able to find a new source, or something else will open up. Or you'll have an epiphany and a new option that you never thought of was right there in front of you, and you'll find a new way to source or a new location. At least that's what I've run into. And I talk to people, obviously. You see I've got, you know, lots of comments and stuff, and people email me. I don't get to answer most of the emails these days, but I do answer what I can. Sometimes it may take a week or two to get back with people, but I do try to answer some each week. But anyway, so I talk to people, and this is the gist on what most people see too. So anyway, let's go back to the feed here. Let's see. Laura, welcome. Nathan, thank you. Hey, Duncan, how are you doing? The Land Down Under. I was just listening to Men at Work, and the conversation was on a Vegemite sandwich, which I have never, ever had. And if I ever get to Australia, that's the one thing I will eat. I was told it tastes like potted meat, but Duncan may not know what potted meat is because it may not be something that's there. Maybe a lot of folks around here may not know what that is. In the South, you do see potted meat a lot. Nothing wrong with it, so. On the way to the beach, we'll watch next. Oh, there you go. Enjoy yourself. I think you did say you were going out on a little vacation there. We did take some time to do a few things. I'm going to be on the road Friday and Saturday. Again, hopefully the GoPro will be in by then, because I'd like to video a meeting that I'm going to be taking with somebody. So anyway, Carolina Picks, welcome. Hey, Marrakech, how are you doing? Gary, welcome. Not King, just Don. Trader Jex, how are you doing? Hey, Lex, how are you doing as well? Let's see here. Aline, how are you doing? Is there a way to send you a couple photos of specific item I have questions about? Would like to. You can send them through Facebook. Just drop a email. You can join my Facebook group. If you're not, there are links down below. It may take a little bit of time to get in there. I do have other priorities, unfortunately, these days that don't allow me to answer everything. My business obviously is a key part of our life and what we do. So, and some days it's just not possible for me to have much time at all. I actually had a couple emails, chats, and even after the live show here, I've got probably 2 people. I know one for sure that I will be chatting with after the show. That's usually what's been going on lately. So if the show ends at 9, I'm usually around chatting with someone else for an hour or so. So anyway. But you can send them through there, Aline. I will do my best to get on there sometime this weekend, though. Hey, Rich, how are you doing? All of my items in my store are listed with first class. First class priority are 2 different things. Or maybe you mean first class or priority. Or maybe both. You can list first class and priority on the same listing. You can add multiple options if you didn't know that. And then what happens is if they pick whichever option they pick, they'll pay for that option, and then when you go to actually print the actual labels, it'll show the option they paid for. You don't have to do anything after you add those options if that's what he's talking about. I sell a lot of large items like glass and vintage cookware. When should I choose standard versus priority shipping? I charge for everything, so it's going to depend on what you do for your shipping. So if you're including it into your cost, you've got many factors. And I've talked about those who include shipping into their items and don't charge. It's just listed as free shipping. If it works for you, it works for you. I don't have the luck with it with what I sell, and I don't need to do that either because literally with the items that I sell, the people mostly expect to pay shipping on it. I've bought way back in the day. Shipping's always been extra, even with mail orders, which I still do some mail order catalogs that I send out of our items occasionally, mostly to those in England for records and things like that. So there's so many options for stuff like that, but you got to look at it from the standpoint of what you got to lose on it. If you are including it for free, what most people do if they're including free shipping is they will basically add the highest price in. So if you're on the East Coast, they're going to add a California shipping price to every one of their listings into their items, and then just have the free shipping option stated on there. That's not really good in my book. It works for you, that's fine, but I wouldn't do that just because if they're local or close, it's going to be a different rate, and you're actually going to be making more money off of them versus those who are farther away. So it's just an unfairness in my book. Again, if that's what you want to do, it's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying it's wrong if that's what you do. So I'm not trying to criticize or ding anybody for doing any of that. Whatever works for you, that's just my justification on why I don't do it. So, that may not be your thoughts. Nothing wrong if you totally think differently than that. Everybody has their own opinion on everything, so... Anyway, that's what I look at it. If it's cheaper to ship it a different way, I do swap the options at the last minute. Sometimes it's cheaper to send things first or priority mail versus like parcel. It just depends. Usually I just drop in a parcel option and I don't put the priority. If it's cheaper at the end of the day and it's over, I think I usually use 99 cents, I refund the difference to the buyer. If it's less than 99 cents, I usually just leave it as it is because we do get billed the final value fee 10%, and it also helps cover the costs because we don't basically pay for any of the boxes or the shipping products or tape or any of that stuff. We charge the full cost for shipping, and then we don't give the discount away. We use the discount to cover our costs on it, and we did add a quarter to our other account to compensate for the new payment processing quarter fee that we have to pay them, which is a scam because that's not what they told us what would happen, but on we go. Water under the bridge. Hopefully that semi-answers that, Rich. It's hard to say without knowing how you ship. Yes, give thumbs up. If you haven't, thank you, folks. I do appreciate that. Let's see here. Do I have a link? If you're talking about Sellbrite, I would have to open it up. Literally, if you just go to Chrome, type in Sellbrite. In fact, I can just do this. This is Sellbright's site. If that is what you're talking about, I will have a link if you're talking about the cardboard as well. Once I get it all situated, I'm not going to touch on the topic until the video comes out, just because I've got a tentative agreement and I don't want to have any issues. Yeah, I will do the end cuts, as I said. I've got an okay. I just got to figure out a time. My schedule is just terrible this last, say, 3 or 4 weeks. Marlington Duke fan, welcome. I'm at the hairdresser getting my hair done. I'm a diehard fan. Oh, well, thank you very kindly. Can't wait to see those end cuts. Yeah, as I said, I will. I literally been pounding this and trying to get an answer like almost for 40 some odd days now. And it's a scheduling issue with me between the person when they work too, so. Yeah, Thrifty Blonde. I know who Cutting Edge is. The option that I'm talking about is not buying bubble wrap, like pre-cut, ready to go. These are end cuts. These are like the leftovers of a roll. It's not straight cost. And it's $15 is what I paid for 1,000 feet. I don't think you can get anywhere near that from a Cutting Edge personally. I've dealt with Cutting Edge in the past. I go to the biggest one in the area is what I use. And I'm not going to call it any names, but let's see here. Standard would be first class. Yeah, it needs to be less than, yeah. First class, I don't use any standard word. I literally put in first class as the option, literally word for word. I don't want them to be confused. Some people just put economic shipping, standard shipping, and then they use whatever they want. I don't use those options. I just put straight what it is. There's no misconceptions. There's no way that anything can be confused, because somebody can come back and say, I thought standard meant something else, and they want to return it because it took a day longer or something. I've tried to remove out any possibilities, even as strange or as unobvious as it may seem, of any obstacles that can be in my way, of any misagreements or anything like that with anybody. Just personal opinion. How you doing, King of Thrift? Carl's just charged for shipping while you're stuffing out first class and party options for people to choose from when they buy. Yeah, that's what I said, as you can choose the options. If you're doing clothing, though, I have to say I don't think you could do charge on shipping. I did it with coats and a few items here. We didn't sell a ton of clothing, or well, we didn't have many up at the end of the day anyway, but I personally wouldn't charge, I think, if you wanted to move the clothing, because clothing's a hard sell on eBay, obviously, these days, and it's getting harder from what I get feedback-wise from many people. I've been hearing summer slow down even before summer started, so, it's just, again, it depends on what you sell. I don't have that. We've found our way, I guess you can say. Again, I didn't plan on selling what we sell. I looked into what sells all year round. I was tired of, having the sales issues and stuff. We ran into this. I've done postcards for most of my life, and it found us. I mean, it's just what happened. I didn't plan on having, 60,000 items up on eBay. At the most of the time, we'd run auctions back in the day. I'd run 2 or 3 sets of auctions on the weekends. They'd start Sunday and they'd end Sunday. And we'd maybe run 125 to, say, maybe 250 auctions at a time. When they ended, usually we'd wait until the next week and then run another group. Sometimes we'd run 3 weeks in a row and then stop. And usually we could pretty much set our clock. So every 25 listings usually gave us like $60 or so, depending on what the items were, of course. But on average, that's what it was back in the day. We didn't peddle in higher dollar stuff like we do these days. So, you got to start somewhere and you move on from there. So, we've just followed the path. We've got the vision and the drive of what we want. It doesn't matter so much what you do to get to the end of the road, to get to where you're going. What matters is that you figure it out and you keep on going even if you fail. We had some areas that we didn't make a lot of money in. We had some areas that, we lost some money in. We had some stuff like clothing where we just dumped it because I just didn't want to deal with it. Now, we still made a profit, at the end of the day with clothing, but with clothing, it was harder and harder, and the competition was immense, and the sourcing options around here are gone. You know, once Savers closed, which Savers used to be one of the biggest sources for us, we have no bins. Bins for me are 3 hours in Columbus, Ohio. And I'm not going to drive 3 hours one way and worry about a hotel or being away from the family to do that, especially with my youngest having a heart condition, for those of you who know. So I don't do that anymore. Another reason why I wouldn't do eBay opened. Again, with eBay open, I'm just going to touch on this because I got hit up again on people. I know everybody has good intentions, so no disrespect to anybody else on it. Nothing wrong if you're going. More power to you. Wade, who I talk to, quite often, sometimes, he's going to be a speaker there. So, I'm not saying it's bad at all, but for me, you're talking for 2 airline tickets and then the hotel, and eBay keeps raising the fees. It used to be like $15 to get into eBay Live. It's like $600, I think, this year. Another 100 up from last year, and they're offering less service and less people are showing up from the company year by year. So they're giving you less features. They took a cut-rate hotel. Again, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's bad. It's just for me. I don't go away from home unless it's a necessity or we take the family and stuff. And it just wasn't practical. I can make so much more money. I don't get a big benefit out of going there. I'm beyond the days to just hang out and stuff. With my age, I just want to work as hard as I can to get something set. So when it's retirement time or whatever the case may be, we're going to be okay. 'Cause who knows what's going to happen in the future. I want my kids to be well off, and if something happens to cover the wife and stuff. So my goals are to worry about the business 100%, and then maybe in another year we might hit eBay opened again. Who knows? I would hope it would be somewhere else. I've been to Las Vegas before, and I don't go into the casinos and stuff. We got them here. Detroit's got a fairly decent one. There's one here in this town I'm in right now. Well, at least Toledo, that's fairly big. The only reason I go to casinos is sometimes for the food. The buffets are awesome, and some of the musical guests that show up there. So we missed Bowie when he was here at one of these, and it's one of the last ones we said if somebody good that we wanted to see was there, we were going either way. So that's about the only reason you'll see us in a casino these days. I used to do stuff with the Choctaw casinos in Mississippi, but other than that was a work-related thing too, that we used to do TV broadcasts with my restaurant in there for contests and radio broadcasts and things. So anyway, I know somebody called me out the other day. There is a commercial that I am in for a restaurant I ran here on YouTube. I'm not going to call you out, and I'm not going to mention I please wish that that person would not call out what it is. I know somebody's going to be looking for it like mad now, but nothing embarrassing. It's just it's where I used to work, and it's nothing related to what we're doing here. So, it got around to a few people. So, again, I'm not embarrassed about it. It's nothing wrong, but there is a commercial I'm in. My kids and wife are in it as well too. So, let's see here. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. Steve, how are you doing? Fancy Pink, I think we said that's okay to say, so no disrespect if I don't got creative business. Hey everyone, great to see everyone. Yeah, welcome as well. Let's see here. Let me pop down. Hey Scott, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm gonna. We do have another channel in the works, and I got some videos coming out. I'm just putting a title together and an intro, and we will go from there. So I'm gonna have stuff like homemade. I get a lot of hate from those who just do eBay and stuff and want reselling, thinking it's a waste of their time to come to my channel if I'm going to put on stuff like that. I agree. I don't really get into when other channels mix up the content and stuff that's unrelated to what I'm interested in. So I'm just going to do a separate bout. We're going to do one day a week where we put out 1 or 2 videos on topics related to art. Again, I have some topics there, and I do some photorealistic things as well too, with charcoal and pencil. That's my expertise. I've displayed in some national contests, and I've won a national award. I've won, I placed the top 3 in some regional contests in Florida. I used to display in art galleries. I worked for Disney and did art. Maitland Art Center, if you live in Florida, owns a piece of my art. So does Valencia and UCF as well too, which are colleges that bought from some shows that I did. So I'm going to be promoting some of that, and if most of you who've watched me know that I do my own production of art cards and postcards and some figures and things like that. I'm going to be giving away one for Halloween, 100%. It'll be boxed literally in a video. You'll get to see it before the show. It's going to be given away live. I'm planning on it. And again, this is something that I usually sell for $175. It's going to be a painted, you saw it made. It's going to be one of the ones in the video doing the killer clowns and that. And I might do a unassembled trilobite kit too. I'm not sure on that one here yet. I do still have a pending. I'm to the second stage of getting it in a museum, so gift shop that is, selling it. So anyway, stuff's going on, stuff's happening. I don't want to clutter up this channel with that. We have several different businesses, and I want to kind of separate everything so I'm not boring people that aren't into that. Again, I'll make out the options. It's going to be linked, so you'll be able to easily click to it if you are interested. You know, so, and I have had some conversation. I did work in the industry for a while, as I said, so I did work for Disney, and I did do art for Disney in some aspects. Got pictures to prove it. I've been in their employee magazines and things like that for some of my artwork and mural work and concepts for Disney World and the Magic Kingdom specifically. So just FYI, I've been in some magazines too. I was in Reader's Digest once. Let's see here. Let's see here. Well, thank you. Yeah, we're on 9 sites, if you aren't aware. We have 9 platforms we make money in, soon to be 10. We're hoping for October to roll our site. I don't roll anything unless it's ready to go, so I'm not going to sit here and hope it goes fine. We're going to test beyond belief. I want it to be full. I want all of my items. We own our listings off eBay, and I've said this before. The only way to do that, to own everything, is to download them into a third-party app. We priced them all out. I looked into them. Sellbrite is now owned by GoDaddy, and I've actually talked to GoDaddy on the phone the other day, so I've really looked into every option and every ability, you know, especially with our own site and all that kind of stuff too. So, you know, that's the way to go in my book, and that way I can integrate my own concept, and I can integrate videos or talk about stuff in a category. So if I do a category, I can have an introduction to the items and other aspects and add some history in it as well. So it'll be a interactive shopping experience is what my goal would be. So, you know, a lot of people are interested, and I get a lot of questions even on eBay about more information on specific items and the history and things like that. So it'll just be a way to get that. I love history. I've taken a lot of history classes in college, even when I didn't need to. Even as far as taking Asian history classes, including history of Japan, Meiji period, and things like that, and the Tokugawa. I really got off on that kind of stuff, and you know. So anyway, enough on that. Yeah, junk journals are good. Not super pricey. You get the right items, the right ones. Patreon, you're going to see something on that. So Scott, on that one specifically, I already have a video shot with some bolos for you guys in Patreon. And it's going to touch on that, and I'm going to show you something, and we're going to show you one listing that made somebody roughly, I'm guessing $3,000 in less than 2 weeks off the one single listing. So we're going to touch on that, but just FYI, I see at least 6 people from Patreon, so just FYI on that one. Let's see here. Rich Sanders is thinking of sales. It depends on what you sell, Rich, and it depends on the quantity you have up if you're slow. Even more so now, I see even more people jumping on the I'm dying, my sales are dead, what am I going to do? If you got 3, 4, 5, 600 items, depending on what you're selling, that's just not enough. Obviously, if you've got, you know, $400 items you're selling every day of the week, no big deal, but 99% of you sitting there listening or that are going to watch this video don't get that. I don't get that. You know, I do get, you know, $1,000 item at least once a week these days. But again, I'm diehard. I'm not so full-fledged into it. I'll crawl up in the top of a barn and, you know, crawl into dirty, dark, dingy areas if I know I'm going to be able to get something. Even if I don't, just for the chance in some cases. So that's what you got to be able to do. I still remember when I first started, somebody made some comments about my fingernails being dirty and how disgusting. I was outsourcing, you know, and I thought, well, you know, boy, that is kind of bad, but I don't really care what you think about stuff like that. Not specifically people, but, you got to get into this. You got to be able to roll up your sleeves and not be afraid to get dirty. When I ran a restaurant, even as an assistant or as a general manager, or even when I was a regional manager, I walked into the kitchen and I could cook. I spent and paid attention to when I did my training. If you ever worked in a restaurant, I know there's a few people out here because I see two specifically that I've talked to about restaurants, and other people. Scott, Bearded Picker, he's worked in restaurants as well too. But anyway, the point is that, as a manager, you got to know how to do everything in a restaurant. And I've worked in so many restaurants where the manager couldn't do a thing in the kitchen. I knew how to cook, and my guys worked for me because they knew that I could handle it and do their job in a second. And that was always key, that if they didn't do their job, I'd send them home or suspend them or whatever. You know what? They knew I wasn't afraid to do it. And most managers were afraid to jump in and have to cook. That was always the drawing point. And I tried to get every person ever worked under me as a manager to know how to cook or know how to run every spot in a restaurant. We do that with our eBay employees. Everybody who works for us knows how to list on Amazon, Etsy, Discogs, eBay. They know how to cross-list. They know how to take photos. They know how to address servers and do the storage of photos when they're taking them, where to up everything, how to set up the light stands, all of the mounts. They know how to use we've got a Canon D5300. Everybody knows how to use that. If you haven't used one of those kind of cameras, it's a mid-range, I guess, DSLR. It's got a lot of features and a lot of functions that do take some time to get to know. Once you got it, those cameras take awesome photos. I mean, beyond belief photos. Obviously, the next step up, the 7200, 7300 would be better, but we've got 3 of those, and there's a limit to how much I'm going to spend on cameras. So, anyway, let's hop and get some more questions. I know I get off the topic here a little bit. Anyway, I have problems shipping through eBay today. I tried to ship a flat rate envelope today, but there wasn't a flat rate envelope shipping option as they usually do. Yeah, that's why I said there has been some glitches with their shipping on it as well. If you're talking about like a priority flat rate, I know for me we had it because I was actually going to ship something, and I didn't end up having to that way, but I was actually going to use that option, and it was available on my shipping page. Laura, I'm so paranoid about shipping the wrong thing that I tediously print and label one at a time. I literally write the names. For the list on your printing page, when you actually go and you select all the items that need to go out that day, all the ones waiting to ship, and you click print these items, it opens up the page with all of the options where you have to, where you can combine and all that. From there, literally I use the option to just do the name. I've removed all the other options on there, so it's just the basics. It's the item name, and then a basic location, and then the person. I think actually the person's full name, and that's literally what I write on every single envelope, is just the person's full name. I have not had much issue, other than that one time when there was 2 basic names so similar with the same size packet. It's not often that it happens. All what happened is I had to open up one and verify the actual street address to make sure. I mean, we had a bunch going out that day, so it wasn't much of an issue. It's happened once in 8 years. So, I'm fine with doing the last name. I think that's the best bet. We used to do them one-off, a few years ago. And nothing's wrong with it if that works for you. If you don't have a ton going out, it may not be an ordeal. But when you got a lot going out, and in each one of those packets, sometimes I might have, 5 or 6. Yesterday I had a packet that had 12, and then another one that had 7, and 2 more that had 4 or 5. I don't remember which was which, but to the same person. So multiple purchases. Multiple purchases are always the best thing. Some of the philosophy I do, it's multiple purchases run the show for us, The other day I had one person buy $897 worth of trade cards from us. It's quite a few trade cards. They paid full price on all but 2, so the average price on that sale was fairly good. So, that's the kind of thing that I look for. Sheer quantity of the same type of items is the only way you can do that for the most part. I only know one person now, and I didn't find this person until after I talked about this, that can ever do that in clothing. There are a few people out there that have the bomb wholesale hookups for clothing, where they can do, bundles and clothing, like with a tie and a shirt, or, slacks and pants for those of you, and a shirt together, or a whole outfit, or, 2 pairs of tennis shoes and matching socks, or something along that line. Those are all options you can do in clothing. But mostly I would relate that to a wholesale deal. Like some of the toys that we may do, we do bundle occasionally, because you can up the value on things by bundling them. Yeah, I used to be paranoid on doing that. We have switched to packages once before, too. It happens. I did it personally once a while back. So, again, before we did the full names. But anyway, it does happen. Let's see here. When the name doesn't match and you get out of sync, it sucks. Yeah, you have to go back to paid and shipped and verify in an opening package. Yeah, I very rarely, as I said, it was an eBay thing. And again, I'm sure that the label issue is tied to people that have changed the full-time name on the PayPal payment notice just for one specific item. One of them had 2 different full names, so there was no way to know if somebody was hacking it. So I actually emailed the actual person and verified it beforehand. So if it comes back, I at least have a response to show that, yeah, I did look into it. So just my take on it. Yeah, you should still have, I still have a link for the classic shipping page. When you go into the page where it actually gives you the option where you can combine, there's actually a little tab up on the top on mine. Maybe it's only because I've got the full hub with store. I don't know. I haven't heard that was an option or not. But there is an option to go back to. It says classic literally on it. Shipping can be difficult. It depends. Yeah, it depends on your policies. And it can work for you anyway. You can charge, you can not charge. For me, charging's fine. It's the same type of items I'm selling all the time, so, Hey, Annie, how are you doing? If it works for you one at a time, I mean, there's no right or wrong way. There's a way that works for me and it works fine. So for me, that's fine. Again, I'm not trying to criticize. Whatever works for a specific person is the key here. In my personal book, again. Yeah, I use Excel for everything. Carl's talking about. I've got videos on that too. I think if you go into my how-to playlist and just type in Excel for your search criteria in my playlist, you'll be able to find the Excel ones. And I do believe I still have the actual Excel spreadsheets attached to that video. If I don't, let me know. I still have the sheets I can add back to that post. Well, thank you, Gary. My Patreon page, and I don't want to touch on things. Again, I don't push it as often as, a lot of people say I should, but Patreon's more specific and more, I can't say technical, but more detail-oriented. You're more time on objects and identification. I tried to do prices was my last video. It was a 2-parter. It was over an hour together. I think one video was 35 minutes and the other one was 30. And I tried to get them up in the same day, but YouTube sometimes these days, when it's time to go and upload, they have issues, and it ends up saying it's going to take like 3 hours to upload when it should only take 45 to an hour, or sometimes less than it. It just depends. I have no way to up my speed to fix that because I have no other options for internet than the one I have that's good anyway, and AT&T's awful, and that's who I'm stuck with. Yeah, shipping can be a challenge for some people. Once you get it down, though, and you've done I could do it in my sleep. Anybody here, well, not everybody here has shipping fully down, but I've got several people here when we leave. I've got 3 people that can do shipping just fine. And then my kids do it too, and the wife helps me sometimes when we're really swamped. Once you get it down, though, you can do it in your sleep, and I'm not exaggerating with shipping. I've got my ways to ship everything down. Any paper item, magazines, books, whatever it is, I've shipped it. So, rolled items I do, and I make my own triangle tubes for that really easily. I don't buy anything for that. I use regular boxes. A 14-inch cube box can ship almost anything without issue. I've shipped big frames with a 14-inch cube box that I had to use. I used 4 of them together, but it was still more efficient from the way I did it than going out and buying a bigger box that cost more than what I spent. Again, it wasn't a money factor. It was just I used the same boxes. I ship all kinds of stuff. I got a full shot video. I just haven't had a chance to go back over it and add some tags and stuff. And it literally packing a glass mirror, not a mirror, but a picture in a thin box without much other thing. You'll see it. I ship things different than most people, and I save material. It cuts down the cost on dimensional shipping as well too, for those of you who deal with bigger items. But let's see here. Nameless picker. Railroad lock keys are a no-no. You know, I've sold them on eBay, and some of us have. A lot of people. If you look on ended listings, you're going to see probably 300-400 that say that have keys that sold. In the past, it didn't used to be an issue for the defunct ones, but again, as I said, it sounds like they're really cracking down. I know I'm behind on here, but let's see if we can't catch up a little bit on the feed. I have a problem with auto relisting quantity items, which I think it comes from the good till cancel deal. There's probably a radio button that you're missing. You can turn off a lot of features by going into your settings options there, and then looking through theirs on relist options as well. You probably got something clicked that doesn't need to be clicked. I did address some of that actually in a video not too long ago as well on that. So there is options that you can turn off. We have some options where things, when they end, if I run out of an item, it stays as an active listing with a zero quantity. Anything that I do that way too, you won't see in sold. So if you try to look up comps in some of my items, you can't find a comp on those type of items. What happens if you do it that way, it's sold, you can just go delete the listing, and then at the end of the day, no one can see what you sold it for. Many people do it that way, especially if you're doing wholesale. You kind of have to hide what you're selling so that other people won't jump on the bandwagon and sell that same item and undercut you by a couple bucks. So FYI, that's what you do. And I do wholesale. So again, I know all the ins and outs. We've done it for a long time. Yeah, I'm careful on keys. Handcuff keys can be a no-no on there as well. Yeah, Ivory can get you arrested, not just that. And they've done like sting operations, even on eBay from what I've seen, where they will buy stuff from people and trying to see if it's really Ivy, or if it is, and they show up at your house, you know, the FBI or whoever the agency that would be involved in that. I've seen some TV specials on it as well, so I know they do it. Give me a second here. My feed's totally gone. I can't see any of the chat right now. Oh, here it is. Just a second. Let me see. I got to find where we were at. Hang on, Joe's still trying to find where I'm at. I'm getting close. Closer. Hang on. There's Annie, so I know I'm getting closer. Okay, Charles. Don is the real... Well, thank you. I'm not going to read comments like that. Nothing... Again, I love the comments and all. I'm not trying to glorify myself. But thank you very kindly. I do appreciate the comments. Again, don't mind you doing the comments at all. So I'm not trying to, get on it. I don't like to read those kind of things. I'm not trying to, glorify myself. Marikex7, Phil, can't wait. Okay, I'm sorry. That's content. He and I don't always agree, but I believe we both have open minds and are decent people. Yes, I would say so. I'm still sort of a newbie. Haven't lost money in shipping in over a year, but was more curious to see if people care about quick shipping versus standard. I don't offer any of the guaranteed shipping either, so that's just FYI. And as I said, I don't use standard or any of that kind of stuff. I just literally do the options. If somebody reaches out and wants it to go a different way, I always do whatever they ask. It's no big deal. I'm very pleasant to order from for the most part. I didn't end up having to block somebody who was upset that I didn't answer an email immediately with response. eBay even tells you it could take 2 days. So anyway, let's see here. Laura, let me pop down. 1SMLP Fit Life, welcome. Lived in Florida for 10 years, worked at Disney. David, welcome. Daryl, welcome. Thank you very kindly. KRB. I got a gnat or something in here. Somebody's opened the door and now there's bugs. Everything I send has tracking too. Yeah, I get tons of feedback, as Carl's saying, on the quickness I ship. That has a big play in it. I almost always order from, like if we're buying a camera or something, I'm going to order from the person with the best feedback, and I don't always look at speed of delivery. Feedback is key. Return policy is key for me. Knowing that they handle their business correctly, seeing options in a listing. That's why I say uniformity and having like return policies and things like that. I get why some people don't have return policies, but in my world, I just don't sell items that I've got a high return rate, or I have people supposedly renting, if that's what you want to call it. I've never had that thought that somebody is renting a piece of clothing from me. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I never had that thought or issue on it. I just think people, it just doesn't fit them when they get it, and they just don't like the way it looks. My wife's ordered it. We never seem to find anything we really like in the department stores or at the mall. We order a lot off of line and clothing, even for the most part. And it's a hit or miss sometimes with the sizing. Even if you follow a size chart, half the time it's not right. I can wear a large in one brand, and it has to be an extra large in another. Even if they're American marked labeling systems, it's still, I run into that all the time. Good, bad, or indifferent. I don't always assume that someone's trying to scam me on everything. It's such a small percentage that's trying to scam you. It's just not worth the worry in my book anyway. Again, it depends on your ratio, but we stayed away. If we have issues, we've sold electronics. If I had big issues with them, I just don't sell those items anymore. Neutron Bomb, do you sell yours on Amazon? Yes, I do. I sell postcards. I sell prints. I sell some model items, dioramas. Things along that line. We do merch by Amazon as well, too, with shirt designs. I think we're at like the third or fourth tier now. We've sold enough to advance it. You got to sell so many to be able to sell more on Amazon. Just FYI, if you didn't know how merch by Amazon works. I think they're still taking opened enrollments in Homemade by Amazon. It's just a thing you can apply. You should be able to see it in your seller account. Literally, like if you're going to list an item, I think it was in the middle block there where they usually have like what's going on and things, or maybe it was down in the bottom left of the seller account list page. Maybe I can't remember because mine doesn't show the same thing anymore now that I have business to business and the business accounts and all that kind of stuff all tied in together. It just kind of rolls into one big account now. For the most part. And plus we've got the influencer account with them too, which anyway, I got a lot of accounts with Amazon these days. There's more than just a seller account, just FYI, for those of you who are into Amazon more drastically than not. Lord, I want to be you when I grow up. I've had a rough time, and I wasn't always the best person, so I don't. There's not many people that I idolize. I couldn't tell you who I idolize. Honestly, I don't know if I have anybody anymore these days. There's a lot of people that I think are legit. That's more along the lines of how I score people, whether they treat people nice, whether they're legit, not into some fantasy world, or the world you see online isn't what the real thing is what I see a lot. I guess catfish they call it. You got to be able to see through people, I guess, to some extent. This is me. I mean, you either like me or don't, so I don't try to put on to be something I'm not. This is literally me. If you run into me in real life, that's what you get. That's why I do sometimes get some hate, but, I'm not fantasy. I don't think I don't like to hear my own voice. Let's just put it that way. I get people saying you just love to hear your own voice and hear yourself talk. That's not it at all. I'm not a big social person in real life, and I don't, it's not my thing. I took the public speaking. I used to be an altar boy and be in front of 1,000 people at mass, with the pastor. So, I'm okay with that. I used to do speeches and talk in front of hundreds of people when I ran stores or ran as a region, and I had to have a regional meeting. So, I don't have a big problem with it, but business-wise, that's all business for me. I don't really do it, and church was a different thing. So, anyway, I was an altar boy for many years, just FYI. Marbles are cool. I do like marbles. I just don't. I used to run out and try and find them and ask a lot. There's some people that I know that wear shirts I buy marbles when they go out sourcing. Just another thing you can do, and I used to do this too. I have a shirt that I still occasionally wear. just put I buy whatever you buy. If you're sourcing, put it on your shirt on both sides and wear that t-shirt. It doesn't cost much to get one these days. If you haven't known that or haven't thought about that, I've been doing that for, God, 15 years. I've had a shirt made. Whether it's custom, whether you do it by merch by Amazon and get one of your own shirts, whatever you want to do, get a shirt made that says you buy stuff. So when you're sourcing, people will ask you. You'd be surprised. You don't have to talk to people sometimes when you do stuff like that. People will comment to you. So if you never knew that, you hadn't a clue, that's what some of the people that I know have done for years. Our group and the people that I've associated with have shirts made. I used to have a couple, but I don't do that so much anymore because I don't do the same kind of sourcing that most people do personally. I don't have to beat the road as much as I used to. Again, I've earned my right to be able to not have to garage sale as much or, estate sale. I still love going. It's the only sad part about not doing it as much is the thrill isn't there as much when you're going and knowing you're going to always get something. I know what I'm going to have usually before I get it because somebody sent me a picture or asked if I wanted it. So anyway. Yeah, for us, if they pay before 11 o'clock, it goes out that same day. If it's 11 in the morning, it goes out that same day. Sunday, all I worry about Saturday, all I worry about is that it's ready to go when the post office shows up. And they're usually here at the same time. I know what time they're going to get here, so. Vegemix or something. Yeah, Emily, I know exactly which Lucy episode you're talking about. I grew up, I watched Lucy. It was on the weekends. I think it used to be on like at 5 o'clock when there was no cable. Cable didn't exist. There was no satellite when I was a kid, or at least when I was real young. And there was reruns of stuff like that on. I've probably seen every Lucy episode there is. I used to watch, they used to play Abbott and Costello on the weekends. And one of my favorite was the one with Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney Jr. and I can't remember, Boris Karloff. There's two with Boris Karloff, if I remember. One where he's the killer, and then the other one. I used to love Abbott and Costello. I remember the original Three Stooges. I think I've seen every one of those. And if you didn't know, there's even a Three Stooges cartoon, I think, that came out in like 73. Maybe it's even 60s. I'd have to go back and look. Let me pop back down here. Annie, Vegemite is like a very... Yeah, I've looked into it. I just never have gotten the ability to taste it. Yeah, it's either you love it or you hate it. That's what I heard. There's no in between, from what I've talked to. And I've got 3 or 4 people from Australia that I talk to fairly routinely. Not so much the last week just because we've been so busy. But hey, Max, how are you doing? He just got done with his estate sale. 2 awesome vintage stuff for $10. I looked up one item so far. Vintage English motorcycle tire spoon. $30. Yeah, we've scored out on that kind of stuff. Same with local live auctions. Church sales are pretty good too, but I usually only go to church sales for certain things and only certain church sales. I've talked about it before. Make yourself a list of the good church sales to go to, because around here, God, there's so many. There's probably 200 church sales in the season. And there's some that just aren't worth my time. There's some in certain neighborhoods that I'll always go to because certain things always show up. I got a list for everything. Excel works wonders for all of this kind of stuff. Make yourself a list. Make yourself a calendar. You might miss something. They may forget to advertise. It may not be in your normal advertising sources. Sometimes I'll actually, Facebook friend a church or something just for that reason. Around here, there's jewelry sales and things like that as well, too. There's a wholesale company that I deal with occasionally that I follow religiously. How do you remove the yellow stain when they're taped into a book? You don't. You're stuck. I usually don't mess with anything that's taped or mounted or stuck to anything. I just move on. There's so many other options for stuff like that. There's nothing you can do to negate it. You can scrape it off the face, but you risk ruining it. I may show that in a video. There is a way to clean it up a lot, but unless you've done it or messed with it, I would never recommend it. What usually happens is I see that people ruin it. People will try and steam cards and all kinds of stuff. You're just going to ruin it. That's why I just don't mess with it. It's just not worth my time and effort to do it. Again, it depends on where you're at with stuff. If they're taped in the book, though, don't mess with them. Don't buy them to start with. Any chemical that I've ever seen will stain the paper almost as bad as what the tape does to it. So again, I don't mess with any of that stuff. It's just not worth my time. I try to avoid it, even if it's a couple bucks. If the tape's going to ruin it. Now, if it's maybe a Tahoe resort or something, maybe I still might put it up, but usually I don't. Butter and bacon on there. I don't eat any bacon anymore at all. Just won't touch bacon at all. Used to all the time. Don't do it anymore. We've tried to eat better. We eat a lot of Boca burgers, if you know what Boca burgers are. My wife makes some really good home ones. And there's some meatless. I do eat steak, so don't get me wrong. I'm not doing it for to be a vegetarian or anything. I'm just doing it for healthness. If you look into it, a vegetarian lives 10 to 20 years longer than everybody else. And these aren't just fictitious. These are, proven facts on that. And I've looked into it, and I've taken enough classes to say that does seem to be legit. Plus, I feel, sluggish sometimes when we eat certain things. I stay away from Taco Bell. At least I try to, too. That's one of the worst places. But I love some of the Taco Bell food. Don't get me wrong. But anyway. Laura, went to an estate sale yesterday. They were citing eBay comps. I left empty-handed. I will still look sometimes. It just depends on what they have and how absurd the estate sale is. Usually I see that when they quote them are from a new estate sale company. So that's why I say know who you're dealing with ahead of time. I only go to certain estate sale companies to begin with. I don't even mess with some that are just whacked. I mean, there's just some around here that I just wouldn't mess with. The rigged photos and things like that, just like I was talking with Wade for the online images and stuff. I learned my lesson, and I as I said, write everything down. Write down every company you deal with, good, bad, or indifferent, and you won't waste your time dealing with stuff like that. Usually in your town, there's going to be a set group of estate sale companies that will do all the estate sales. It's not going to be some random person. It'll be like 20 people or whatever in your city. There's only so many people that do estate sale company things where they'll handle an estate sale. So know your company's local. Same with local live auctions. Know which ones are legit. Know which ones the auctioneer hasn't been in jail for doing something. I know that sounds crazy, but I look up stuff like that. I look up the ones, and I look up records. I look up with the Better Business Bureau for these auctions because some rig it. One of the auctions around here, family members will bid on items in their own auction here, which I'm almost sure is illegal. And I don't go to those auctions, so don't mess with it. But there's several around here that have been shut down and had their license pulled for ripping people off and scamming. So I investigate everything, and you got to. A lot of auctions around here in a state, or at least the auctions, are like leftovers from other sellers who can't sell it. So you got to think about that too. I usually can find items at most every single local live auction that were on eBay that the person couldn't sell it. Almost every single one I go to, if I look up an item, I look them up sometimes by how close it is to where I live to see if that item is from one of these people. And sure enough, there'll be like a dent or a ding in something. It's the same item that they tried to list and they couldn't sell it. Now, that doesn't mean I won't buy some items that they couldn't sell, because most people will list it once or twice and think that it didn't sell, I'm done with it, and then just get rid of it. I don't do that. If it's got potential to sell, we'll hold on to things for a very long time. And not worry about them, because stuff sell all the time. Let's just get a few things out just real quick here before I forget. I'm gonna stay on for let me get my phone to see what time. Oh, we got plenty of time, so I'll get to the questions in another minute. Now, if you saw the haul video, you saw that I got some reel-to-reels. There's, I think 23 is what I got. One of my employees listed all the records today. I sold 5 of those records from that lot I got today. 5 records. I got $237 back from 5 records out of that purchase the very same day that we listed it, within an hour or so. Top dollar, higher than the last ones that sold. No offers made, just straight up buying. Now I listed, I didn't list, I keep saying me, but he listed, Jordan listed these. And he listed these, and again, they were up for, only again, 6 of these. 1 of these sold. In fact, it was this one here, which isn't the highest dollar one. This is Perez Perdue, awesome Latin soul salsa jazz. If you don't know who he is and you like Latin, salsa or whatever the case may be, the bomb. When we lived in Florida, we would hear this sometimes in modern-day clubs in like the Miami area. So I've always liked the old school stuff when it comes to this style of Latin music. It's the bomb. Mambo Italiano, even Rosemary Clooney does that one well, believe it or not. So again, reel to reel, this one sold almost $40. First one I paid $5 for all of the reel to reels. These are not the best ones. The best ones and the ones he just listed was probably this one, which if this one sold, this one's definitely going to go for a decent price here. The other ones are full-sized ones. Those will go for even more. So I'm sure we'll get 600 back again from this first day. I've said this before, if I list 100 items, 3 to 5% of that 100 items will sell the very first day I list it. No exaggeration. Every single time. 5 records sell out of a big group of records, which is more than that. It's probably close to, I'll just throw out a percentage. It's probably like almost 15% or more on it. And one person bought 3 of those, and it's somebody who buys from me all the time. So I was very happy. It paid for all of my labor, all of my expenses, and made us a profit for just those 2 items for the entire day. So, not 2 items, but 2 categories, I should say. So anyway, my goal is to pay for labor before the person leaves his shift. And we do that, I think, every single day. I can't think of a time when I haven't done that. And that's even if I'm running, say, 4 or 5 people at the same time. Like somebody's photographing and, 4 listers or 2 photographers and 3 listers. Photographing stuff is not a productive time in the scheme of things, because if they're photographing, they're not listing where revenue comes from. So you've got to split up your tasks in your day if you've got employees. I know a lot of people don't have them, but hopefully that is a goal for some folks if you want to expand your business. As employees is the only way I could be where I'm at. Just FYI, it wasn't an option. It's not an option for some folks at some point. It has broken the point where now the floodgates are open for us now, I'm not slow at all, and I'm not exaggerating. We have $1,000 days, and the count that I share with you. I was going to show another one here the other day, but, I just haven't had a chance to throw it together on it. I've showed a couple in my Patreon videos, $1,000 days. That's not anything strange. $16,000 on the count we share with you is not an absurdity either. In the summertime, okay? So I'm just talking. These are summertime numbers. This is the busiest month I've ever had in my entire life selling online. And again, not an exaggeration. This isn't some fantasy world at all. It's the facts of what we sell. Again, I didn't plan this. This isn't something that I'm doing. This isn't me wishful thinking or anything. This is just the facts. I'm not trying to brag. This is just what happened. So anyway, Annie's got a question. Let me pop down. Hopefully the feed does not disappear. Is it unwise or bad form to contact distributors to buy wholesale for Amazon when they have their own online store? It depends on if they're selling on Amazon. Anything is game. The only thing you might run into, well, I'll guarantee you run into this. If you want to do wholesale, you're going to run into the fact that maybe they already have somebody in your area that they are already dealing with wholesale, and that region is covered by that other person, and you cannot get wholesale from them. You're going to run that in. Sometimes somebody will sign an exclusive deal with a wholesaler. We do that. So no one else in my region can actually, or my specific area that these folks cover, can buy the same items from that wholesaler. That is something you are going to run into, and if you don't, you should find somebody who will do that. You got to be able to produce and prove that you can sell volume for them, because if you can't, then they will drop the contract or won't offer it to you in the first place. So that might be a factor for some people to get into this. They might not be able to get into it because of that aspect of it. Another thing that I talked about, if you want to, we'll talk about wholesale for just a minute, and I would just call them, though, Annie, truthfully. I would not say it's unwise or bad form at all if they're not selling on Amazon. If they have their own site, you are free on Amazon. Worst they can say is no, but I would say that you are a full-fledged wholesaler, and I would at least print up some business cards or cut some business cards to be able to hand them something, whether that's, your business or not, that says wholesale on it. I would have something for them to look at, because most people aren't going to want to mess with it. Again, I would always have an EIN number for sure, 100%. We have a BOP. So if I take possession of product, like with a bill of lading, or I take possession of a product with a 30-day net due, and I don't pay for 30 days, I am covered with my insurance policy, so they will let me do that. Now, if you want to be able to do where you get product and don't pay immediately, which you can get with companies, believe it or not, you have to have a BOP. No one in their right mind is going to let you do that. And I never said this before. It just didn't dawn on me because someone said, well, they won't let me do that. I tried, blah, blah, blah. How can you do it? I have a BOP. I know what to say. I've handled actual wholesale for a region. When I worked for Einstein Brothers, I did wholesale. I did procurement, shipment, delivery, fulfillment for 30 plus stores in Washington, Virginia, and Maryland. I know how wholesale works from every aspect of it, not from just a wholesaler as an individual, but from someone who handled $11 million a year in wholesale items. So I am very knowledgeable, and I'm not trying to brag. That's just, I was offered the job. I took it. I hated where I lived, so I don't do it and didn't do it because of that. I have good rapport. I've talked about Lou. I worked for Lou with that job, and I have my only boss that not my only, there's a couple from Gaddy's, but Lou was like the bomb, and someone that I still honestly respect more than anybody in the business world is Lou. But again, I know some of you know exactly who I'm talking about. I got a video just on him. Honestly, one of the best guys I've ever known in my life. Business, otherwise, I would consider him a friend. I dropped whatever I do for this kind of guy. But anyway, I know wholesale. You're going to have to know wording and verbiage to say to somebody. Again, EIN number, a business account might be essential to do wholesales. Business cards are a major. Dressing to the T, new shoes, a tie. Dress up, look impressive when you walk in the door with these people. That's the key. Whether you're doing wholesale or not, act like you do, I guess, is the key. That's your business. I mean, if you're doing a ton volume on eBay, you can technically say wholesale to some extent, so you're not technically lying. It's a little white lie to get you in the door. You may have to do that. I can't speak for you. I don't know your abilities. I know Annie would probably have no issues with that at all. My opinion is it doesn't hurt to make a phone call. Worst thing that can be done is they can hang up. I doubt they'll be offended. It may take them some time to figure out who to talk to. There's just so many other ways and things that could come up with that. I've done the cold call. I did a bunch of phone calls this morning for various different things. Call rate's pretty high for us to get a response, usually, depending on the issue, because all I got to do is quote a site or something that we do, and I'm usually fairly easy. So you can use eBay. You can use your Amazon account, but I usually don't recommend sharing Amazon information with anybody else, but FYI. Hopefully that helps a little bit, Andy. Like you're basically saying you want to buy from them to be their direct competitor. I have wholesale items that first, other people sell, that they get them from the same person that I get them from. And I also have wholesale items that the company themselves sell as well on the same platform that I sell on. I don't consider that always if they've got the buy box, I wouldn't mess with it. Let's just put it that way. At least on Amazon, so to speak. But if you've got your own site, and you're out nothing, and you've got a wholesale deal where they will ship for you, which is 100% allowed on Amazon or on eBay. If you did not know that, again, because you're going to have invoices and receipts, you can prove that it's a legit thing. You are an authorized distributor for the wholesaler, so you don't have the same issues as drop shippers do. Just FYI, again, I do that, so it's not an issue like that. I know we're a little bit off eBay, but this is something that we do, and I do aggressively recommend as well for most people. I would just call them up, Annie. You've got nothing to lose at all. There's no risk for you. If they say no or wouldn't do it anyway, you're not out anything. And they might say yes. I'm never afraid anymore to ask, in my personal opinion. Let's pop down here and get to some more. Liquidation King LA. eBay wants us to include the shipping as part of our profit-making engine. That is why their fees are based on the cost of the items and the shipping costs. That's not why their fees are based on shipping costs, just FYI. If you're don't know why eBay charges a fee on shipping, It's because what used to happen is there was no charge on shipping fees. eBay had no charges on shipping fees for years. And what people figured out they could do is list an item for 99 cents total cost in, and then charge $200 for shipping on the item, and then they wouldn't pay fees but on 99 cents. That is the legitimate reason why eBay charges a fee. 100%, that is the reason why eBay charges a fee on shipping, because people did that. It happened all the time, and more people were getting around and doing it because it didn't violate any rule on eBay. There was nowhere on eBay prior to them doing that that said that you couldn't do that, which they caught on to very quickly, and then they fixed it. So that's why there's a fee. eBay was losing listing fees, or the final value fee is what the reason is. Full-fledged, 100% reason. Heard it from eBay personally as well in the past. So that is the reason that they're charging that. I don't care what anybody else says. I heard it from eBay myself. I knew that was happening. If you're new to eBay, you've never seen that, but that's what used to happen. And they're like sometimes in some categories, it's like 10 and 15% of people did that. That's a huge percentage of people for a category, and that's a lot of money for eBay to be missing out on. So that's the change that happened, and that's why. Let's see here, Rich. Thanks for the advice. I've always charged for ship as per your advice. Guess I should have asked if people prefer priority versus standard. If it's clothing-wise, you may need to throw it in, just FYI. BitMEX Trades, welcome. I had FedEx box, basically 3 items, stereo shelf, system 15. Tommy Z, welcome. Yeah, if I'm at a sale or something and they've got an eBay printout, I won't even look at the items usually. Again, I haven't been to but 1 or 2 garage sales this entire year. I haven't really needed to go to them, in all honesty. Emily, I like offering free shipping because my listings are higher up on the eBay page than my competitors. Again, that's what I say. If you're selling clothing, a video game that 100 other sellers sell, you've got to be able to do something to set yourself aside. Depends on what you sell. I don't sell in any of those categories anymore. I don't do electronics. Again, we've made a ton of money on all of that stuff, but for me, the stuff that I sell gets me a bigger return on my time, my investment. It's easier to pack, and I can get it in bulk, hundreds and hundreds of items any given time. Let's just show you this real quick. This is $10 worth of a purchase from me right here. Ton of labels here. People say, labels don't sell. Fago labels alone, this is like $20 worth of Fago labels right here, or more, probably more than that. I'll probably list a few of these separately. Again, collectors will do these, scrapbooks, all kinds of stuff. Again, $10. And this is just one of the purchases I made this morning. Again, there's a ton of stuff. Some of these will sell in lots, like this one. This one here, again, there's a little green in there, but chocolate mint, $5 on some of these. Some of these kind of things like this, I usually put $14.50 to $17.50 a piece. Some of this kind of stuff I might get $10-15 on. This one always sells for us. This one I usually get $8-10 on, $8-10. $8-10. I mean, I could just sit here and do this for an hour. There's quite a few of them in here. Labels for whiskey sell. People will collect them. They'll stick them on. They'll make stuff out of them. I can sell these to crafters. I can sell these to people who have a man cave bar in their house. People mount them on the walls for decoupage. The list of stuff on these is just really good on here. And there's some better ones in here. I've sold 4 of these. Good name here, Bon and Lillard, those I sell. This is just an example of these. Some of these are samples that you could send away for. Some of these are from NOS stock. I don't care what it is. I love paper. $10. I'm talking there's 300 labels here maybe. I mean, and just again, some of these are going to sell in lots. The Jack Daniels ones I've already pulled out. I will probably sell those immediately and get probably say $60 back on them. Some of these are just full of labels. Even like some of this is old school. Now, anybody who grew up in the 80s will recognize this. And let's bring back some memories for those of you who are older in my age group. This used to be a thing back in the day when I was younger, for those of you who haven't seen this. Mad Dog 2020. Is it called Mad Dog? No, it's not even called Mad Dog, but we always used to call it MD. It was Mad Dog 2020. I don't know if that was a Northern thing or not, but If you've had this, it's like cheap church wine. But it was cheap, and you could get a whole bunch of it. And if, as a juvenile, when you weren't really supposed to drink, your money went a little farther for you. So anyway, the grape one was the one I remembered. In fact, here it is right here. It was the cheapo drink for the teenager who couldn't afford the more expensive stuff, or you didn't know anybody to get whiskey. It was always easier to get wine illegally back in the day than it is. Again, I said my youth, I was a troubled youth. My father died when I was 17, so I wasn't a good child. I've apologized to my mom profusely for many years. So anyway, let's move on to some more topics here. Let's make sure I didn't miss anybody. Again, Emily, whatever works for you is best. I can't say any specifics for anybody. Again, mine, if I say what I do, I can't say it's going to work for you. I know what works for me, and I know it works for me, and I know why it usually works for me. Whatever I do and talk about, I won't throw out something unless it's actually something that will work for me. Chances are what I'm telling you will work for most people, but again, I don't know everybody's specific situation. Let me pop down here. eBay made listing shipping more complicated. I use Sellbrite now, so for Sellbrite it's fine. eBay listing straight, I don't know. It used to be like 3 pages to list a single item, and it used to take you like 5 or 6 minutes to list one single item on eBay. So if you've been on longer, you won't think that at all. You'll think this is a piece of cake. But if you're just starting off, I can see compared to some of the other platforms, I'm used to the old way where it took forever to do anything on eBay. So pictures took a long time to upload if you didn't know. I mean, you might only be able to do a picture or two in a minute back in the day. I mean, I'm talking dial-up was all we had back then. There was no DSL or anything like that, or cable. Picking Northwest, is there a way to do free shipping on first class but offer priority, but minus what it would have been if it free? I think you can. I've never looked into that, but I am almost sure. Let me write that down, actually. I'm almost sure you can actually do a free option and then add a secondary shipping option for priority, if I'm not mistaken. Let me write that down here, because that's an interesting question there. I haven't had anybody ask that before, but now I want to know the answer, so we are going to write that down here. I'll hopefully have an answer for that in the next live feed, just FYI. If I forget to bring it up, ask me, because I'm sure I'll have an answer by tomorrow. I charge a flat rate for shipping clothing, 3 or 5. I break even at the end of the month. Some buyers overpay, some underpay, but I can control what the final cost is to the buyer. You can control what the final cost is to a buyer by doing calculated shipping just as easily. They will, before they buy, if you do calculated shipping for everything, you are charging them the exact fee to every single person that buys from you. There's no one person paying more, one person paying less. Everybody's going to pay the exact cost that it costs you to ship that item. No one would overpay with calculated shipping, and they will instantly know on calculated shipping before they buy it, because it's going to tell them what the shipping cost is the minute they go in to look at your listing. As long as your weights are right and your size and dimension is right, you're going to be fine. You'll match the dimensional shipping correctly because the dimensions are right on the box, and your weight's right, so you'll match the weight shipping cost as well. I have never, ever had an issue with calculated shipping ever being wrong in the entire 8 years we've done full-fledged, full-time, online-only selling. So I'm telling you, calculated shipping works fine. I never have, if you do a flat rate shipping, you got to go back in and change when the shipping costs change. I don't have to change anything. Ever, and I charge for it, so I never have to worry about any of that. And I also have business policies for everything. So if I do want to change anything, I can change, my payment policy is one single one for every item I sell. So if something changes or I need to add something, I change one single radio box or one single figure, and every listing is fixed in a matter of moments. That's like the business policies are a dream. It's the same thing basically that Amazon does. We've got several business policies set up for shipping in Amazon depending on the item that we sell. We've named them all in Amazon as well as in eBay, a name that everybody here knows, so everybody knows. Sometimes I've just literally got default first class or default media. But we've broken them down up to 4 pounds and then 4 pounds and over, so we can match the first class international shipping charges and some legal aspects too, because there's certain items that you can't send certain ways, like adult magazines cannot go overseas to many countries. So there are certain things that we list and use specific business policies, so at the end of the day, no one will accidentally ship something to a country that it shouldn't go to. That's a good plus with business policies if you sell adult magazines, and I sell sometimes hundreds of them. So FYI, that's the only way to be safe. You cannot send one of those to some countries. That's a big no-no. Anyway, let's pop down here. Again, one more time, calculated shipping is the bomb for everything if you're going to charge. Do you find listing at certain day and time is better? No, I list anytime, all day, anytime it is. I shoot for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10 p.m. Eastern. My thought being a higher audience at this time. I sell stuff that's more unique than most people. It's not something that most other people are going to have to do, so I can afford to just list whenever. And plus, I've got a list when my people are available to work. So like today I had 4 people listing. Well, there's 5 here, but 4 people were listing today. I had a full house in-house here for listers. So they listed their whole shift. Didn't care what time it is, and I almost never worry about that at all. I used to when we did auctions. I would always try to have an auction end on Sunday evening. That was always the best back in the day. I don't care anymore. Doesn't matter to me at all. But again, my whole business is much different than most people. We've got like 60,000 active items over 3 stores, and I don't have the concerns that other people would. Most of my items, I don't care if it sells right away. Items I have sometimes for a couple of years up online and they sell. I sold a Murphy's Oil soap big gallon jug. I actually showed in a haul from 6 months ago, maybe even 9 months ago, for my asking price. Something I paid $2 for at a Goodwill. I got $95 for it. I wasn't going to fluctuate. I didn't lower it ever. There's many items that I will run for 2 or 3 years, and I will never ever lower the price on them because it will sell. That is a perfect example on that bottle there. It's the only one I've ever seen. There's no price comps anywhere near it. The closest one that ever sold close to it went for $42. I got more than double what the only other one sold for. I don't worry always what the other ones have sold for, because people just don't research or look up stuff in the antique field. Someone's going to look up a Mario game for sure, and you won't be able to price them above what everybody else is selling. No one's going to look up a postcard from some small town that no one's ever heard of, that there may be only one other one around ever, or that there's none other ones on eBay. People just don't waste their time on looking at it. They'll just say, what, is it worth it? Do I have the money? Do I want it bad enough? That's why I sell what I sell, because I don't have those considerations. I don't have to worry about a Tommy Bahama shirt. Everybody else has the same shirt for $30. I can't market it up. A piece of paper that I'm selling or a postcard, most people aren't going to have. I sold I listed, well, I didn't list it again. Ian listed it, or not Ian, I'm sorry, Justice listed this one. It was a postcard from, I want to say it's North Dakota. It's a real picture postcard of a courthouse in Manning Dunn, maybe, County in North Dakota. He listed it immediately for $75. It was sold within maybe 45 seconds, maybe a minute or so. But, I mean, he listed it. He moved it over to the bin, and then I got a link, or the little notice that it's sold for $75. No asking price. You know, it just depends on what you sell. Though that same postcard sold for $22 last year. So if I priced it at $22, what would I have gotten out of that card? $22. I priced it at $75. What did I get out of that card? $75. You've got to break the habit of thinking that collectibles are the same market as toys, or the same market as clothing, or the same market as books. Every category or every niche you do has its own distinguishing factors that aren't the same as any other category you're selling in. There's rules of the trade or rules of the category. For like records, I've got certain things that I do. I know that I'll get more money on a certain site on a specific type of record than another site. You got to know this kind of stuff. I mark up things on one site that I don't mark up on other sites. I don't always worry. Again, I cross-list certain items now like mad these days because we've got the option. I'm paying for the service. Why not? It's the best bet to do. It has increased our sales to a phenomenal rate. I don't want to give out any numbers. I don't want to feel like I should give out a number. I'm not going to give out a number, but let's just say I've never made so much money. And again, this is just a fact. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just trying to let you know that there's so many other ways to do what you're doing. And I didn't know when I started. It's taken us years to get to this point. So look outside the box. That's what I'm trying to get at you. There's just, I can make money doing all kinds of stuff. And again, I make money in a considerable amount selling stuff that we've personally made. So if you can't find something, there's stuff that people make. You don't have to be super talented. You don't have to be super artistic. We knew somebody who made, and this is from the South, and in no disrespect to anybody, they made redneck wind chimes, which were beer bottles that were hung from like a wind chime frame. They made the whole thing. They made a lot of money, almost $1,500 in a 4-hour time frame at a fair, and they sold some online too. So, and they had nothing into it. It was free beer bottles, some wood that they formed into a hoop, and some string. I mean, I would have never thought about that, but they had a niche. Everybody in that county, pretty much, and it was a small county, had those. You know, it's just an example of something looking outside the box. It's something I would have never in my wildest dreams thought that you could do. Empty used beer bottles. They carefully recapped them and mounted. It wasn't string. It was like some kind of like maybe a piano wire or something. I don't remember the whole. I didn't look into it too much, but I was at a festival with them once before, so I know what they did. You know, so there's just so many other options. So again, I don't worry about when I list. Yeah, I'm gonna have an answer on that too. Yeah, Thrifty Blonde. I'm going to have a video on that. I'm not going to announce anything until that day, just because, as I said, I do have a deal with those folks here, and I will probably have you a link of some sort where you can, like, maybe even order stuff. I don't have stuff shipped, so I'm not sure on the shipping cost, is why I don't want to delve out. But I've never spent more than, say, $25 on at most 1,000 feet of bubble wrap. Sometimes they're only 12 inches across, but I don't have any problem with that. The bubble wrap I would use for like a 10-inch disc, you know, a record or something anyway. So 12 inches across is just fine. And they may be serrated or jagged. It's not going to be even or anything like that. It's going to be some random oddball length probably too. Let's see here. Laura Corn, I'm going to try that. I seems last time I tried, it just let me do calculator for priority if I had free first class. I do calculator for everything, so I couldn't go into any of that. Literally, with calculator, you have nothing to worry about. It's always going to tell whoever's buying from you the correct price for everything. I have not ever had an issue with calculated shipping in the entire length of time we've done it, and we're talking years. And I never have to change when the post office changes. I just sit there and roll when all these other folks are panicking. I just sit here and don't have to do a thing. It saves us so much time. Time is a huge factor in this. So let's see what we're running on time here. I've still got plenty of time. Hoptman, I've all but stopped sourcing thrift stores. Yeah, I almost never go into them. We did the other day. We wanted to get out and just have a little fun. We went got some steaks that day anyway. So I think it was Outback. I think we went to. Getting much better inventory from storage units without driving all over. Storage units are good. I'm not saying they're not. I wanted to give you the option with Wade and all on the channel. I don't want the space and time. If we go to the warehouse, we're going to do storage units. So just FYI, we're borderline warehouse. If the warehouse goes in, I'll have plenty of space. We know somebody who owns a warehouse facility, so I wouldn't have to pay a whole bunch of money. So I'll have space if we do that, and you will see that kind of things. I'll probably get some pallets as well too, but that wouldn't be till fourth quarter. eBay open, never 3,000 down the drain, never. You know, looking at the figures of how many people showed up at eBay, all I'm going to say is I don't know what I would personally get out of going to eBay open. No criticizing from anybody else. I mean, I pretty much know the platform hands down. It's not the only platform I do, so you know, and 3,000 for me just to hang out and drink and stuff is not a huge ordeal for me. I'm a family man. That's all I really worry about is the family. Again, I'm not trying to say it's not worth going for some people, but the majority of people, 60% of last year, were all people that were new, hoping to get something out of it. And the return rate from people is going down and down every single year from what I see. So, and them adding the cost and a cheaper hotel, it's got its drawbacks in my book. I can make a lot of money. It would be a net loss for me and probably double whatever it cost me to go there, just because I wouldn't be making revenue or finding things or dealing with my pickers if I'm gone. So I would lose a lot more than just that. And I can't justify it because I don't have I did a cost, you do a cost benefit analysis, something. I can't justify me doing that just to hang out and hear eBay talk. I can look at everything they say online. For me, again, I'm saying for some people it's an experience. I've been to so many trade shows and corporate meetings and corporate get-togethers and parties from corporate businesses and stuff as a regional and a GM. It's just not a thrill for me anymore, I guess, I don't know. If we go somewhere, it's the family these days. Again, my son has an issue, and we're not traveling far from home either. So, again, from everybody I've talked to that's went, they've had a lot of fun and stuff, but business information most people don't get. Yeah, you might get some first-hand notice of things that are going to happen, but, I usually hear about a lot of that anyway, just from having a lot of contacts. But anyway, it's up to everybody else. But if you look at what they've charged, the stuff that they've lured, how many people from eBay are going to be there? It's less and less people. They're spending less and less money on it, less and less features. Again, eBay Live was like, if I'm not mistaken, the first one or two were free, and then it was maybe $15. Now it's like $600 just to get in. And, I don't know what I'd get out of it. I've seen, and talked to people from all the prior ones, and the repeat rate, most people don't come back if they're newbies and they go for 1 year. It's just not something they do. Again, to hang out or to get with friends and stuff, yeah, I get it. But I guess I'm a little older and don't experience or don't. It's not a thrill or anything. I guess I'm not a big flying person anymore. I've flown hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of flights. I'm not a big fan of flying anymore these days. I guess maybe a train, but anyway. What's that other place to list albums? Well, there's several places to list albums if you're not aware. You can do eBay, you can do Amazon, and not just on Amazon. There's two categories in Amazon. You can do vintage vinyl Amazon, and then you can do the actual music section with new vinyl, which we do in both. We're ungated in CDs, DVDs, records, in all categories that offer that option. And then you can also do Discogs. We do mail order records, and then we do some with some auctions as well. Craig Moyers, there's some other people that have sites too that buy and stuff like that too. So there's at least 5 or so good options to sell records online. Amazon being a real good one, especially for 78 records. Real deal, McNeil. No eBay open for me. 20 plus years reselling, and I never got so much as a hat from them. Yeah, I've heard comments and stuff. You're not gonna. In my opinion, again, I'll probably get a little bit of hate, but no criticism if you want to go. But in my opinion, you're going to learn far more from other resellers on what to do than eBay itself, because the people at eBay are a business. They don't resell full time, and some of them, like the CEO and all, they've probably never resold a single thing on their own platform in their life. So I would rather listen to somebody else and them telling me some financial information, and they're not going to give you all the financial information in the first place. It's limited to the market. I can read all of that in Wall Street Journal or something along that line too. So I do read all of those. So I don't worry what they say at some event like this. They're going to hype it up and stuff like that. Every company does this. It's not eBay's not the only one guilty of it. So just FYI, the majority of people, I will say, enjoyed it are the ones that were there just to hang out and party and have some fun and blow off some steam and use it as a vacation, and they stayed for the week. Nothing wrong with that. I've good friends that have went, and enjoyed it, but they never got anything that would help them financially or help them on the site. That's the gist of it. So, concierge service is the same thing as the anchor store service. They don't get anything special above what I get anyway. I've got the stuff. So again, you go and enjoy it, have fun. Again, it's money out of my pocket. I could not throw it. If again, you're talking $6,000 I wouldn't be making, or I'd lose. The easiest way to make money is not spend it. You know, obviously you spend to make it when you're buying items, but I mean, cut your costs down, you know, and that's a cost factor. I wouldn't justify it for a corporation I was working for or anything else. So again, it's a business decision. It's not a personal decision. Would I like to go? Yeah, I'd love to go, but I'm not going to get what I want out of it. I don't know what they could offer me. Now, I'm not saying that you guys might not learn something, but I don't know what on earth they could offer me that would give me something out of it. And I'm not going to nominate myself for any award or anything like that. I don't like the whole nominate yourself kind of aspect either. So I think it should be a nomination from people. And I think if eBay really wanted to give out awards at one of these, it shouldn't just be people who were at the thing. It should be the entire site nominations personally. But, you know, that's just me. And again, Wade is talking at the eBay Open, so I'm not criticizing. Wade's a really good guy. Couldn't happen to a nicer person, nicer family man. So anyway. Let's see here. Yeah, I hit Discogs. Yeah, Sir Thrift's a lot. Our worst, busiest month ever for us. Let me see if I can't get down some questions. Yeah, Piece 360. When they do that every year, they challenge Prime Days all the time. Last year they had it. It's been going on for a while here. It doesn't bother me because I don't sell stuff that would be in the Prime package or Prime for eBay, whatever you want to call it now these days either. I won't mess with any of that. And Prime, and even on Amazon, I'm very few items that are Prime in all honesty. I miss Brimfields. Brimfields is a nice place. Let's see here. Talking about Brimfields. Brimfields, I found, you name it, I found it at Brimfields. Brimfields is awesome. Yeah, clothing is rough. Yeah, I love World War II stuff. Hopman knows exactly what I'm talking about. I've got some videos down the line, too, on World War II items. I've got a bunch of helmets we got in the other day. World War II, World War I. My son got lucky with a real nice French one from World War I. Nice liner. It's an immaculate helmet. Really nice with a separate attached unit piece in the front, too. So, anyway, I'll probably show some of that. Michelle with 1L. We sell photos, military photos, 8x10s constantly. $75 is about top, so that's really good. We had priced a bunch at $75, and we sold a couple, and I just didn't want to have to waste the time to go back in. So we price all those usually at $57.50, unless it's a confirmed scarce one that I know, like a P41 will usually sell for a lot more, something along that line. Let's see, we're getting close down. Yeah, we're getting down to the end here. Zoe, after watching your video Skateboard Bully video, I found an 80s board for $6, sold it for $1,552. Couldn't have done it without you. Wow, you're the best. Well, I thank you very kindly. We have done some incredibly high amount of money on skateboards. It just depends. Most people don't think much of them. Even the dirty, dingy, worn ones with no wheels, you can still get, because it's the deck that everybody wants. The wheels, the chucks, all the other parts to it are replaceable. They will swap them out. It's the deck. If the deck's a nice deck, my dog's down here, so I've got hair that's bugging me. But the decks are what you want. Yeah, there's skateboard decks that can go for $5,000 and $6,000 easy. So, just FYI, good sale for sure. Hey Chris, how are you doing? Chris, Thrift Shop Pups Hustler on here. I need to hit you up one of these days this week here too. Anyway, hope you're doing well. I saw your subscriber count was flying off the chain yesterday here. Yeah, I never pass up on vintage skateboards. Never. You got to know the brands is the best bet to know which ones are older and which ones sell the best. Ivan, I've got a video just on, now it is the old pricing, but it basically gives you the gist on when to move up to an anchor store. Just figure out the cost. If you're spending more to have, separate stores to get the amount of listings, figure out the cost. Figure out the cost per item that you're going to save by going up the Anchor store, because with an Anchor store, your first 10,000 listings are just over 2 cents a listing to list. So it lowers your cost. If you're, listing them one by one at 35 cents an item, you're really blowing some money there. Let's see here. Yeah, skateboards, you're pretty much going to have to if you don't know the market. Skateboards are almost an exclusive auction listing, I would personally say. There's other platforms you can sell skateboards on as well, just FYI. Yeah, car parts are, well, I shouldn't say easy, but we've shipped doors and fenders and things too. Sometimes, like with rims and stuff, I literally just wrap a label around it and then we'll saran wrap it really well. You can ship a rim unboxed if you didn't know that. You're taking a chance sometimes, because sometimes they'll ding the tire beating area on them, so FYI. But I haven't had that happen. I've shipped several aluminum rims before. Haven't shipped a door overseas, but we've shipped fenders and stuff too. We used to go in and get the hood ornaments and sell those before the local, this is years ago, before the junkyards caught on that they could sell their auto parts online. It used to be a free-for-all at the junkyards back in the day. Yeah, I don't really worry too much. There's a source for everything. I've crated stuff up before and had to have a semi-truck pick up one item at our house before too. So I don't worry. And I've had people come and pick up, cases of nitrate film and things like that that had to be specially wrapped, all kinds of stuff. Well, thank you, Chris. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate that, Chris. You don't have to do that. My feed just disappeared. Here we go. And again, I'm not getting any notifications that a super chat was even done. I know that happened last week. I don't know if they're doing something different or what. Let's see here, where we at. Thebomb.com. I don't know what you're talking about there, Chris. Let's see here. Yeah, I was going to say you can't do post office. It's all FedEx. Airborne. We've got a rule of thumb is get yourself an account with every major one and try to get the best discount. We've got a UPS Airborne, FedEx, and then we've got a British one as well too. So just FYI. Yeah, Matchbox cars are good. The prices are down except on the rare ones these days, I've noted. Yeah, don't ever go into the ivory market. Yeah, I know I'm back. My feed's just all over the place right now, so. Annie's made a comment. You take apart cars yourself too, Laura here. I know in many states you have to have a dismantler's license to take apart a car and sell it. And in like where I live, you cannot do it in your driveway. And if they see it in your garage, you could have an issue too. Just communities are very strange on that in your state. And I'm pretty sure Florida, when we lived there, had that same rule. They would call it an abandoned car, and they would come and tow it on you, whether you wanted them to or not. So I know you got to watch out with that. And there are some licenses in some states. How often do you have inventory listing mistakes? Almost never. I can't tell you when the last time I had a listing mistake was. The people that I have working for us have worked. I don't think anybody's been here less than 6 or 7 months now, in all honesty. And we're going to end it here in just a minute here. If I didn't get to your question, hop back on here. You can pop them down below. If you missed that on the labels, if you've had issues where the label from the page, your main page, when you can combine, says one name, and then when you actually print the label, it says another name, please leave a comment down below. And we can kind of maybe address that with eBay if I get enough people that have had that same issue, because it's been something that's happened twice to me. So if you missed it, yeah, we try to very rarely eat. We eat a lot of salads and stuff like that. I do seafood, but I very rarely eat beef. I don't eat pork anymore at all. Love it, but I just don't eat it. Trying to be healthy. Anything fat content and things like that. I watch my intake these days. I mean, I can still wear the same jeans I had on when I was 17. So we ride bikes a lot too. I'll do 10, 20 miles in a day, sometimes early in the morning at the park down here. So I got the GoPro. We're going to film that, maybe not on this channel, but just FYI. Just I love bike riding, pedal bikes. Anyway, let's cut it off there because it looks like we're already past the 9 o'clock mark, or right on the 9 o'clock mark. I do have a chat with somebody private after the show, and maybe a second one if I hear back. So again, I do appreciate everybody coming on today. Again, if you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button for us. You know, I really try hard to make sure we have some good content. I'm going to be appearing on another channel next week, and then I will actually have a special guest coming on here, someone who's not been on the channel before. And I'm in the works with 2 other channels right this very minute. I think actually 3. I haven't set down a date with the 3rd one yet, but I've got several things going on, which I'll do some push-outs and some announcements for as well. And again, I do have in the process, I'm waiting for the final dates on setting up some where you can see how I sell and what I do for selling my bulk scrap gold and scrap silver. Well, actually, I probably won't sell scrap silver. I'll just probably let my son melt it here. He's been making bars out of the silver jewelry that's just junk and stuff lately. Bars sell better than junk scrap jewelry, if you didn't know it. And plus, then he purifies it a little bit too, so it's almost $9.99 instead of $9.25. So just FYI, that's what we do with it. But I appreciate everybody coming on tonight. Hopefully, you had a good evening with us here. Again, if you like it, you enjoyed it, please hit the like button for us. Hope you're all having good sales, and have a good day.